Well, once you hear this, you know that we're getting into a conversation about the change in leadership of the minority in Parliament. And for those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live, you can actually see at the background the new leadership and the old leadership. So yesterday, the NDC issued a statement that's one addressed to the Speaker of Parliament, informing the Speaker of the changes that have been made in the leadership of the NDC. Haruna Idrisu makes way for Keziel Atoforsen. James Kluche Aveji makes way for Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa. And Mohamed Mubarak Muntaka makes way for Governs Kwame Agboja. This morning, we're going to get into the analysis of it. But first, my colleague Blessed Soga spoke to the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. Listen to that interview.
Since the environment is changing, leadership and many other things must change along the new environment. We know, for instance, that going into election 2024, the economy is going to be the major battleground. And so many of the debates and other discussions will focus on the economy. So we better put your best man in the economy forward. And that is what we've done. And then we also looked at energy, you know, this petroleum and electricity challenges. And so we needed to settle on Kofi Amabua, our former minister, to be the deputy minority leader. And then the other area is infrastructure, and Kwame Agboja being our man in infrastructure should play a key role. So that generally is what informed the changes. But there are other things that are coincidental. You take the leadership of Parliament, we are bound to organize ourselves in such a way that by and large, we provide for regional balance and other balances in our ways of doing things. And so since it is very difficult to get representation of 16 regions in 5 appointments, you need to do a lot of mathematics. And our view is that the balance cannot be secured with only one segment of the party. So the elections have turned out certain leaders. We already have other leaders that are already existing. And then also, if we are doing appointments, we take all these as a whole to try and see how we can get a fair balance. When you look at Western region, it's one region that has not been represented on the front bench for a long while. I remember when we were in 92 thereabout, 93 thereabout, that we put somebody on the front bench for a while, and that ended it. So it's a significant region that we need to look at. So when we got the combination of Kofi Amabua from Western region, and he being also very conversant with the energy sector, we thought that it was a good choice, so we put him there. Central region is the same. As for Central region, I think we have, there too, for a long while, we haven't gotten a leader there. From that time, since the time of, I think, Amabenyuado also, we have since not gotten anybody from there. And so we felt there was a need to do this type of spread. And then when you look at the 2 regions that give us the highest number of MPs, Greater Accra and Volta region, they definitely have to be represented. So you have though you retained, and then you have Kwame Agboja also being appointed. One will ask why, because we have Dr. Aveji as a deputy minority leader then. Dr. Aveji has just informed us that he's not contesting elections again. But the good thing about this leadership is that it adds something to your weight so that apart from your own constituency, you can also reach out to help other constituencies. And so if you have an MP who is no longer contesting, we felt that it would be better to put an MP who will be contesting so he can reach out to other constituencies and support. And so, but a point that we need to make is that the change has nothing to do with the performance of the leaders at all. What it has a lot to do about is that the environment is changing. And so if you're a football coach and the team you are facing and the game style they are adopting is not in keeping with the players you have put out there, you will do yourself a lot of good.
I was just about going to that point because the description in the media is that there is a revolt in the NDC, a reason for which you're changing the first two men at the forefront in Parliament. Have you spoken to these gentlemen involved, and do you have their blessings?
Yes, we sent a senior person in the party to engage them and let them know that this is the way we are going to handle it. Naturally, it will not be a pleasant news, but at least you need to give them the respect. So we communicated to them before writing the letters to them. And apart from the letter we have written to Mr. Speaker, each of them has been written a special letter acknowledging their contributions whilst they were in the leadership, and then thanking them and assuring them that the change has nothing to do with their competence or otherwise, but it has everything to do with the changing times and the changing field. And so that's about it. So since the environment is changing, leadership and many other things must change along with it.
Right, so that's chairman of the NDC. Now he's called General Chairman, because Johnson Asiedu-Nketia, explaining reasons why they decided to, make these changes. He's talked about the party going forward, believing that they need somebody who is well vexed in economy and finance matters, and so they settled on Kzeal Atoforsen. He believes that the energy sector will be very key, so they settled on Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa. And he also believes that, infrastructure will be very important in the coming election, so they settled on Kwame Agboja. He's talked about also some, regional balance. The NDC hasn't had a leader really in the central region. Amabenyado is not there. You have, Pakwese Misatha also not alive today, and so they believe that Kzeal Atoforsen can do that. Western region, Amakofi-Boa. The Greater Accra region, you still have, Comfort Doyo Ganza still there. And then you look at the Volta region, giving them a lot of votes, and that's why you have, Kwame Agboja there. Anyway, let's listen to some NPP MPs, some NDC MPs who are complaining about the procedure in all of this.
It was not anticipated, it was not expected, and it is untimely as at now. Without prejudice, the gentlemen who are now in the helm of affairs, or supposed to be in the helm of affairs, that is Ato Hazel and then Hazel and then Abuja and then Manuel Boa are gentlemen, are very decent members of parliament. Without prejudice to that, I think that I don't know what informed the national executive of the NDC to do this without an iota of consultation with some of us who are seniors in parliament and in the party. NDC will be having primaries in May, 30th of May this year, 5 months or 4 months away. We will be having primaries. Those they are moving today might be having to contest primaries in their constituencies. And then I don't know what message we are sending to those constituencies about them. We are going to jeopardize them in their quest to wrestle power from the MPP in December 2024. This is most ill-timed and it's unstrategic, and then it didn't need to come at this time at all. I will recommend that the National Executive withdraw the letter of change of leadership. And then I'll urge those new leaders to also step down honorably and say that, look, have regard to the interest of the caucus and the party and the country at large. We think that this is not the appropriate time. We appreciate your confidence in us, but we hope that if the old people continue, we can take over in the near future. I think that both from the national executive, they should take eat a humble pie and withdraw the change.
Who did they consult? We are practicing a democracy. And this NDC, nobody in NDC is bigger than the NDC. My understanding is that they were not even consulted. I mean, natural justice demands that if you have leadership and you want to change them, call them. Look, for ABCD reason, we think that we want to change you people. They were not consulted. So it looks as if they are being hounded out. And that is why I think that it is not appropriate. And the timing is completely wrong. This is not the time we should be rocking the boat. This is not the time we should be engaging. As I talk to you now, there are the main issues that Ghanaians are preoccupied with. That debt restructuring, the Auditor General's report, these are of very important issues to the Ghanaian people. Now, we are having these discussions, and boom, leadership have been changed without consulting the parliamentary caucus. I think it is undemocratic. I think that the democratic principles and holding same, it is not limited to any political party. Everybody, including the NDC, must respect that. So in as much as I have tremendous respect for our party leadership, I think that they have gotten it completely wrong.
Right, so that's Murtala Mohammed, Tamale Central MP, and Cletus Avoka, who's Zebila MP. Now, let's go to the constituency of the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. His constituents unhappy. You also hear from the constituents of Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka in Asawase.
Honorable Muntaka contributed a lot in the vote margin in Ashanti region. So I think it will affect the party because Muntaka has been in the system since 2005 and he knows the dynamics of Ashanti region. And we know that every member in Ashanti region, I can mention names, Member of Parliament, Chairman Zebosu, Napo, Erikopoku, are all boast of Honorable Muntaka, and they have fear that Honorable Muntaka is a kind of person that they can't battle. So this, they should not even try to let this happen. If this should happen, the party will divide into pieces. And when that happen, we want to let them know that when that happen, MPP are going to break the 8. And if JM wants to become the next president of Ghana, he should call the leadership of the house to talk to them, because the channel that they are trying to path will not help the party at all.
We don't think that, or I don't think that they need to be changed, and we are not going to sit aloof for them to be changed.
If you say you're not going to sit aloof, what can you do?
We will do everything within the necessary and possible means to protect and defend them in the parliament so that they will continue with their good work that they've been doing already.
It's a very big mistake leadership is making, and I think they need to reconsider we see him as the leader for progressive development in the party.
Right, so that's you heard from some of the supporters in the Asawase constituency, and this morning I was telling you about the supporters in the Tamale South constituency, also very unhappy. Raymond, you've heard from Johnson Asiedin Ketia. He's giving the reasons which influence the decision taking. What's your take on these reasons?
I have separated this before, and let me repeat this. In politics, there are manifest reasons and latent reasons. Manifest is what you say to people. Latent is what you really want to say, but sometimes because of expediency and other reasons, you cannot put it out there. Manifestly, we are reorganizing to win. We need this level of competencies on the table to win. It might sound very logical. Atuforsen has Oxford education. He's actually gotten a PhD from KNUST. He's been minority spokesperson on finance. He's been a deputy minister. So it may make sense to put them out there. But we also know that the reasons for the removal of the people involved are more than the manifest reasons put out there. So I think the problems that are being raised are, one, because Haruna Iddrisu, whether we like it or not, is powerful. There's a certain block, not only in Parliament, but in the Northern Caucus, that 100% believe in Haruna Iddrisu as a man. I have done this comparison before, and I'm insisting that Haruna Iddrisu is like Brian Champon. He controls a certain group of people, not only because he's minority leader, but because he removes and or puts people in place, in positions. There are so many people that today, they are in Parliament because of Haruna Iddrisu. So that will generate its own problems. And I'm taking you back to when John Mahama released his first list of ministers. When Haruna Iddrisu's name was not on that list of ministers, there was massive chaos in his constituency and areas related to that. They quickly had to find him something to do, regardless of the difficulties that were actually raised at the time. We'll do more.
Raymond, let's get onto the phone lines. We're joined by the General Secretary of the NDC, Fiifi Kwetey, and Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Professor Ransford Gyampo. Good morning, Professor Gyampo. Good morning, Fiifi Kwetey.
Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning to you and to all your many listeners.
Great. So let me start off with you, Honorable Fiifi Kwetey. And I'm sure this morning you may have heard from, in fact, yesterday you heard from Kletus Avoka, a senior member of the NDC in Parliament, Murtala Mohammed, some members of Parliament raising questions about the procedure. They say you should have consulted them at least before taking this decision. Why did you not consult your parliamentary caucus before this decision?
My thinking is that this question possibly has already been answered on your network by the chairman who spoke with you yesterday. In case I didn't hear that interview fully, and maybe in case he has not fully answered, I would just say that leadership of the parliamentary caucus is chosen by the leadership of the party. It's not chosen by the parliamentary caucus. I've been in parliament. I don't remember ever taking part in any conversation relating to the leadership of my caucus. In 2017, when we came to parliament, I don't remember anybody speaking with me, asking my view about who was to be the minority leader or the chief whip. Nothing like that happened. So it's important to appreciate that this is not the first time such a decision has been taken. And as you said, concerns have been raised. We listen to those concerns. It's important to appreciate that this is not the first time such a thing has been done. And I do not think any of them has cited any instance of things having been done in the past that were different from what has been done now.
The 2017 that you make reference to, some have said when the leadership met you, they presented two names to you. And one person said, I want to be minority whip, chief whip, and so automatically the other became minority leader. Could you not have done same?
Nothing of that nature happened to my recollection. Nothing like that happened to my recollection.
Well, in 2017, we're told by some of the persons involved that, for instance, the party leadership presented Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka and Haruna Iddrisu.
That's not true. Nothing like that
party.
Nothing like that happened.
Okay. In 2017 also, for instance, you probably would remember at the time, the Volta caucus making a push for James Aveji. Eventually, he became deputy minority leader. Doesn't that in itself also show that the party leadership probably factored into the concerns raised by a group before taking that decision? And in this case, a caucus of the parliamentary group.
When you're talking about people making a push, it's different from talking about minority caucus being consulted. Decisions have always been taken by the leadership of the party. And that's exactly what happened. the leadership of the party at the apex level, consulted, and a decision has been taken. And that's what has happened historically. I do not recall any changes having happened at the leadership, whether it's a change from Babin to Avoka or the change from Avoka to Kumbo at the time we were in power. That ever became subjected to majority caucus at the time, or to our parliamentary caucus. No, that's never happened.
I'll get back to you on this, but let me get the views of Professor Ransford Gyampo on what it makes of first the process and even the change. Professor Gyampo.
Hi, good morning. I think the change has happened because the party leaders want the change to happen, and who are we to question them? They have been elected and entrusted with a certain responsibility. The party at the moment is being led by Aswedin Ketia, and so I'm sure he has his vision for the party, and if he believes that these changes are necessary, and so he's initiated and given effect to them, so be it. You are talking about the process. I've also interrogated how these have been done over the years, and to be honest, nothing new has happened. Over the years, this is how they have elected or they have selected those who must lead them, on the floor of Parliament. Their own party's constitution talks about the party leadership selected in consultation with the minority caucus. But generally, it has happened that what has been happening is that the party leadership will select, and then they would communicate or announce to the minority caucus, and that should be it. But as a political scientist, I will tell you that we must also move away from sticking or confining ourselves to conventions and traditions that do not advance the cause of democracy, or that do not advance the cause of representation. Even though nothing new has happened, and even though what they have done does not depart from their usual practice, I think that they could have, or we can advocate for the perfection of the selection system in a manner that ensures that you don't do it to create an impression that the minority MPs are like a group of some zombies who should be sitting down, and then the party outside Parliament would always appoint and then say, these are your leaders, and then quickly everybody is following. Then the next time they reshuffle, they bring on board another set of leaders, and then everybody must follow. Leadership is about somebody being at the top, and then others also following and then cooperating. Sometimes, if you don't deepen the consultation and then you want to stick to the existing practice, it may also have its own negative implications in terms of getting the buy-in and support of those who are supposed to be led. Don't forget that this will happen. I have no problem at all with the changes that they have made. My issue is that probably they could have deepened the consultations to include those who have been affected, and then also generally the minority caucus. Look, if Aswedin Ketia and Kwetey want to have their way, or if this is their vision for the party, I don't think that the minority caucus will be able to stop them. They wouldn't be able to stop them. And what would make the thing look presentable, and what will elicit or garner cooperation from their own minority group will be that courtesy of saying, look, this is what we want to do, and we want to consult you on that. And look, consultation does not mean that the person's view, the person that you are consulting view, must be swallowed hook, line, and sinker. You can consult, the person may hold a contrary view, And if you think that that is not the view you want to include in whatever you want to do, you can go ahead. But the principle of consultation would have taken place. My fear is that even though the changes are, in my view, in order, if you don't take care, you may have a group of minority MPs who may rise up in arms and in revolt, and then they may also work just to sabotage, or they may decide not to cooperate with the new leadership. And when they decide to do that, then it creates problems for the party. And so I am for a deeper consultation. You know, Fiifi Kwetey is talking about the fact that this is how it's always been done. And we are a society that our democracy will relax if it is always dependent on how it has been done. Democracy and some of these things are supposed to be dynamic. And so I am sure that even though this is how it has been done over the years, the General Secretary is also receptive and open to suggestion that maybe going forward we can deepen consultations in a manner that brings those who are to be affected and the generality of the minority caucus into the picture before some of these decisions are taken. Otherwise, we create an impression that the minority caucus, they are members of parliament of their own right. They are not a group of pardon my language, quote unquote, they are not a group of some stupid people sitting in parliament and every now and then or at any point in time, leaders who are not parliamentarians will say, these are people who are supposed to lead you. And then they would all follow. And then the next time there's a reshuffle, and then they say, these are people who are supposed to lead you. And they are human beings. Then leadership is your ability to inspire confidence and to elicit enthusiastic cooperation among the people you are leading to support you to achieve a certain predetermined goals. So you must be careful of how these processes would engender enthusiastic cooperation among those who are supposed to be led. I know that Atuposin has excellent relations with all, and I also know that Idris Haruna has also excellent relations with all. Now, if Idris Haruna and Muntaka are better, you should know that they are following. And if their followings are also not happy, then how these followings in Parliament will be able to offer enthusiastic support and cooperation may be a bit problematic. If maybe in future they may be able to get over it, but in the interim it may be a bit difficult. But a party that is positioning itself to wrestle power from a ruling government must not open itself to some of these challenges that are likely to affect their unity on the floor of Parliament. And so the change is perfect. Look, I think that the battle for the political soul of Ghana will be fought in the next election. The battle for the political soul of Ghana will be fought on the grounds of the economy. And so you need somebody who has a firm grasp over matters of the economy to be able to pontificate for people to know the party's position on the economy and for the international community to also know the party's position on the economy.
Yeah, but Prof, can't that person do that without necessarily being minority leader?
No, if you are a leader, your leverage and your influence is different from if you are not a leader. And so, look, if the economy and matters of finance are going to dominate our political discourse in the 2024 electioneering campaign, then you need somebody who is out there to hold that frontal position. And so I very much agree with the change the changes that have been made. My only concern is that they could have consulted beyond those they have consulted. They could have broadened the spaces of consultation to include those who are affected and then the generality of the minority caucus. Taking the decision and having an elderly person call a Gisu Arena to inform him, I think it's politically not nice.
I'll get back to you on that particular issue, but I just want to find out from Honorable Fiifi Kwetey. Now, the reasons that I've been giving, you've talked about it. Now, Honorable Fiifi Kwetey, some have actually made the point that in 2008, you, then as propaganda secretary of the NDC, did a lot to bring the NDC to power. Forum for setting the record straight. In fact, in your campaign to be general secretary, it was one of the things that you trumpeted on your website, one of the things your followers used. Doesn't that in itself tell you that you do not need to be a minority leader with financial expertise or with expertise in economics and expertise in energy and petroleum as deputy minority leader to become, to lead a party into power?
The line of questioning, I thought I'm here to simply explain exactly whether the processes were duly done, whether the proper consultation was done. Beyond that, I think the conversation should be maybe more open to others than for me to be giving additional more information than that. You understand? So I think by and large, from everything, what it simply shows is that yes, if there are indications that in the future there could be different ways in which it can be done, that's definitely a conversation that can be had at the highest level of the party. But to claim that somehow historically this is how it has always been, as being claimed by some, that clearly is not the truth. And that's the point I wanted to establish. So in terms of moving forward, whether there are ways in which the processes can be enriched, consultation can be more different, these are conversations that can be had at different levels of the party in order for us to be able to proceed. The other thing also I want to say is that we must always remember this is a corporate position. This is not about individual. This is about a collective. The moment we start reducing this conversation to personal interest, individual interest, then somehow we lose exactly where it is we ought to go. Our point is simply establish a party that fundamentally is about the party, and not about the individual. All of us are tenants. The only landlords we have is a party. So the party at all moments is number one. So individuals will come and go, but the party will remain. And once we all can appreciate that, I think the party will be the much better for it.
Okay.
That is, I think, something I wish to emphasize. And to say that these decisions are not decisions taken just looking at individuals. You're looking at the broader collective interest. And you take those decisions in line with what would inure ultimately to the benefit of the party.
Now, talking about addressing the concerns in the way forward, I'll come back to a little thing shortly. But what would you do to these persons? How do you intend to engage them, for instance? These persons who are complaining and are saying, for instance, Mutala Post says the party leadership must know that they have to consult. For these persons who are unhappy with the process, how do you intend to deal with it?
Let's just say that some of those engagements have already begun. Okay, there's no need to put out in the public how exactly we will go about engaging members of our party in order to be able to, as it were, get everybody on the same page for us to prosecute our agenda. So let me just say that those engagements have already begun.
Yes, and a bit about the reason. Pardon me if we didn't inform you about that earlier, but because that's something that has come up, and you've heard Professor Gyampo talk about it, for instance. The view outside is that this particular reason is not one that should be a major reason, also because of happenings in the past. And that's why I want your take on it, for instance, because people are questioning the reason.
Please take that again. I didn't hear that.
I'm saying that, the bit about the reasons, for instance, because about economics, because about energy, because about infrastructure, you need persons with expertise within the leadership of the minority. Some have said, these persons, some as ranking members of the various committees, can do that without necessarily being at the leadership of the minority. And that's why I want your take up about that, for instance, because you also, in the past, they've looked at it and they've said you were able to significantly bring the NDC into power as propaganda secretary with forum for setting the record straight. What is it about the economy, for instance, that a ranking member or a spokesperson on finance cannot do that must necessarily be minority leader before he does that?
The battle 2024 is essentially going to be an economic battle. And if a party views that to be the number one, the party can strategically make decisions that would ensure that at the highest level of leadership, the voices are economic. That's important consideration. But that's not all. There's also a second consideration. If you take a close look at the profile of the front line, what you see there is 4 original swing regions in all elections. So you're seeing Central region, always a swing region. You're seeing the original Western region, a swing region. You're seeing Bonga Hafo, a swing region. You're seeing Greater Accra, a swing region. 4 critical regions. Nobody has won election in this country without winning those ones. And you can see them represented. So it's not every detail that can be said, but let's just say that in the broader calculation, these things are done with a view to ensuring that our chances for 2024 are boosted. They are not decisions that are targeted at any individuals. And that's why it's unfortunate for people to want to create such impressions. I've actually heard some claim that, this is about people you don't like or people you like. That's not the case.
Let me make it simple for you. Because since you talk about people saying people you like and people you don't like, people have actually said that this is a change targeted at those who did not support the current executive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That, but it's in the wake of any decision, you hear different individuals express different views. Ours is to go through the process of engagement to really explain that. But these are not things that always you can say out in the public. So that engagement will go on. By the end of the day, it will be pretty clear that these are decisions that are more collective in the configuration rather than individualistic. It's not at all individualistic.
So
as I said, the economic dimension is quite very important because that's really what it is. The minority leader is significant in the leverage that he has, and to the extent that he has a particular focus that helps tremendously the party. And also, as I mentioned, the profile of the regions that you see in the front line of the party, very significant as well. And also the whole dimension of appreciating that change is always a constant. You always want to see ways in which you can infuse new ideas, new strategies, new ways of operating, also new ways of dealing with your main opponent. If you become too predictable, your opponent is capable of reading you. So there are ways in which you can infuse changes that will allow you to be able to bring in new ways of doing things that will inure to the benefit of the party.
Okay. I'll get back to you so we wrap it up. But Professor Gyampo, you would have to leave us. So you had earlier talked about the economy, and the question I asked Fiifi Kwetey, I'm asking you that similar question. Because in 2014, 2015, 2016, the NPP used Dr. Bamia, who was running mate, to actually prosecute their economic agenda. Why not say the NDC, knowing, for instance, that John Mahama would win? They've said it, he's going to win. Why not use the flag bearer? Why not wait to get a running mate, use the running mate? After all, these are persons we can hold accountable.
The question can better be answered by the party.
No, I'm asking you because since you also talked about it, so I'm just getting your views about it.
I think that if the party feels that they want their minority leaders in parliament to typify what they intend to be speaking to in the coming future in the lead up to the 2024 elections, that is what it should be. So be it. Let us respect that. I'm sure they would have other people also talking about economy. But if they feel that, and don't forget that Fiifi has brought in another angle of representation, having people leading the party on the floor of parliament who represent certain swing regions or constituencies that must be given extra attention if the party really wants to win the next election. And so it is their acting that they have every right and every reason and explanation to effect the kind of changes that they have effected. And the key thing is about the process, and that's the only thing you can take away from what has been done. But apart from that, we cannot fault them. We cannot have race qualms, with whatever they have done. Nobody should be indispensable in any political organization, and it shouldn't always be some people and then not other people. No. And nobody, yesterday I had a certain very below the belt argument that was saying that at one point in time when a similar change had happened or a similar reshuffle took place, the party was in power, and so others, those who are affected, could be given ministerial appointment. And I thought that was an unnecessary argument that creates a certain inordinate sense of entitlement among a group of political elites, a practice that must be thrown away. Nobody is superior to anybody, and nobody should be given that inordinate sense of entitlement that, as for me, I must always be doing this. If the party feels that they have a renewed focus and so they want to bring about reshuffle, so be it. My only concern, I'm saying again, is that they could have deepened the consultations, the point that they would have brought into the fore, into the picture, the generality of the minority caucus, and then also those who have been affected. And I'm making the point again that whatever the vision of the party leadership is now, if they really hold on to that vision and they mean to execute that vision, nobody can stop them. And so consultations would not be able to sort of all of a sudden jettison or make them jettison their vision. No, you can consult. If people bring contrary views, so what? If you don't want to work with those contrary views, you still would have consulted them. You still would have shown them that political courtesy that, look, we respect you and we feel you're a stakeholder, and that's how come we came to you to solicit your views and all that. They didn't do that. They stuck to the old practice that is not so democratic. But it doesn't mean they've done anything new. I'm saying that going forward, next time, if they want to do this or they have to do this, they should deepen consultations.
All right, Professor Ransford Gyampo, you would have to leave it as 9. So thank you very much. Let me wrap it up with you, Honorable Fiifi Kwetey. I just decided to check your status. I see party first, me second. What are you communicating? Finally, on a lighter note, what are you communicating?
Oh, actually, that's been my message to party supporters everywhere has been before and even after winning the election. But we must always remember it's always about the party. Individuals are not as important as the party. The party always. So we must always do everything we can to always make sure the interest of the party remains paramount. The day this party becomes just a question of individuals, this party is finished. The only way this party can be strong and continue to move from victory to victory is to always ensure that the collective interest of the party is always number one.
Thank you very much, Fiifi Kwetey.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so Raymond, you've listened to Fiifi Kwetey, you've listened to Professor Gyampo. Yes, they would engage those who are unhappy. They think that this has always been the party's modus operandi. He doesn't believe that there's anything wrong with it. And yes, he can raise concerns about it, which could be addressed going forward, but the decision has been taken.
And the First, I agree that nobody should have any sense of entitlement. Not in party, not in governance. Your role is to help build a better state, help us all develop. It's in that light that I want to see some of these decisions being made. If it is the ultimate interest of the party aligned with ultimate interest of this country, that this new set of people would help us get a stronger team, possibly win power, and make country Ghana a better place, I am for it 100%. But if it is merely the real politique, seeking to change because you have to get back at some people, seeking to change because some people's future political career may be dependent on this, seeking to change because you need to play a very diabolical political game to make sure that you get rid of some people, I'm asking, at what cost are you willing to do this? Now, first, I eliminate Aveji because I think he was really on his way out.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, if you want to be frank with ourselves, Aveji have not done a lot for the NDC.
No,
Parliament.
I mean,
he's always been seen as a backbencher, even though he's chairing PAC and doing all the wonderful things that's supposed to be done by an MP. But he's acted in substance as a backbencher. Now, if you remove him, the only main difficulty I had was Mubarak Muntaka's change. Because, quite frankly, I think Muntaka has done a very good job as whip. He might have had a couple of pitfalls, but Mubarak Muntaka, I believe, has done a very good job. As for Haruna Ijusu, right from Okudjato's resignation, and you see, you can't say that the man has not done some work. It is Parliament under him that for the first time, the minority had the leadership of Parliament on their side in this, what they call it, Fourth Republican Constitution. Now, when you proceed beyond that, it's also under him that at some point they rejected the budget. At some point they fought e-levy. At some point they represented the interests of the people of this country. But there are also some pitfalls that happen under him. Pitfalls like deciding at one point in time that no, we no longer believe in rejecting budgets, but we believe in taking elements of the budget and rejecting. That it means would not make sense. The decision, for example, by Sam Okudjato Ablakwa to leave the vetting committee happened also under him. Which disagreement led to that particular decision being made? Let's not forget, at the point that people of the belief, especially the following of the NDC, that they were going to reject certain candidates, inclusive of our current aquaculture minister and caretaker minister for agriculture. She had the highest votes by the parliament, and those votes could have never been garnered and all by the majority alone.
Yeah, but Raymond, in that case, you can't blame a minority leader.
No, I'm saying that
he may have done his best.
No, I'm saying that. Why then? In the case of E-Levy too, there's no guarantee that he's the one who did all of that. So he's leading the team. So things that
the
happen,
buck stops with the leader.
Yes, things that happened at him. If you take the good, take with the bad, the high and the lows. So in all fairness, Haruna Ijusu can be rated to have done some good work in Parliament, but deep within the NDC today, it's not only internal bickering. There are suspicions. There are also some conversations that suggest that he no longer serves the purpose he's supposed to serve. As to whether that purpose they expect him to serve is in tandem with our national interest, that's a different conversation. But if there are underpinnings for the change, some people have it. And it's been going on not today. It's been happening for a long while. But there's no leader without people who oppose him, actually. And I also agree that Haruna Ijusu, he has a certain level of support. And I was saying he gets the same control that Brian Gyampo has in the cool areas. As to whether this will be in the interest of the party, it will depend on how it is managed going forward. I like the part they say they are engaging people and all of that. I do not have a difficulty with the current leadership. I actually think that with the current leadership, the engagement even with government will change. So if you're comfortable with Haruna or any person who is currently in office, the level of negotiation with the current leadership, even on the MPP side, would also change. Because it appears they will come with a new mandate. Their new mandate more likely under the direct stamp and control of party will be that if we agree, we agree. We are aligned on one point. There will not be any point where the NDC says we are opposed to e-levy. Then the minority leader says we should reduce it to 1%. That kind of conversation, I'm not sure it will happen in this particular engagement. So it will be interesting going for how you see this. My difficulty is how political parties are becoming too strong to stand power, to be fair. I am one of those who believe that members of parliament should act first in the interest of their constituents and in the collective interest of the state. If this is not in tandem with that interest of constituents and collective interest of the state, I will have a big difficulty with that. Because we are not doing the politics and democracy thing for the fun of it. We are doing it with the hope that we will reap the benefits, which is development of the people. If we do not get that point, and we engage in party bickering and other things, real politics and all the other things which may not add on to the development of the country, I have a big problem with that. But merely on its face, a change seen, and it's difficult for people to accept change. For some people who might have been aligned or related or thought that this is a way to go, it will be difficult for them to accept it. But ultimately, would it be in the NDC's interest? Would the party be better off? The jury is still out there.
Well, so, of course, you ended probably with the power of the party. And I started this morning by saying, look, where we're going as a country, and when Professor Kofi Abuchi was here, one of the things he said was that he's always told his students that Parliament is the strongest institution in the Constitution on paper, but the weakest institution in reality. And this has just shown all of us that Parliament is actually a very weak institution. And in fact, the ruling by Professor Michael Kwetey, which dismissed the Fomina MP, Esiama, from Parliament, further weakened Parliament. In the sense that today, if you go to Parliament on the ticket of a political party and you disagree with your party, your party can suspend you, can dismiss you.
And you lose the seat.
And you lose the seat. And so you probably would want a constitutional amendment that will prevent that from happening. So that when MPs go to Parliament, they know, for instance, that once they've not crossed carpet and they're sacked by their parties, they could still be members of Parliament. Because the moment we do this, the very institution which is the control of the public purse, and you expect them to be there and check the executive, cannot do so. Because we know today that the executive controls the party. Whichever party is in power, will control the party. The government will control the party. Now, you started by talking about the manifest and the latent reason. I mean, it's obvious, for instance, that yes, we are being told this is because you want, the whole conversation to be had about the economy. We have actually seen persons within the NDC organizing fora about the budget, and the key speaker is Isaac Adongo. True or false? We've seen that. We have seen that happening in this country. And so the point about we're going into election 2024, we think it's going to be fought on the economy, so we want a minority leader who's well-versed in the economy. Really, to be very honest with you, if you're bringing somebody to speak to me about the economy, I would take all those things from a flag bearer. I would take those things, if not from a flag bearer, at least from a running mate. One that I can hold accountable. Because if a minority leader makes a promise to me, or is fighting about it, is fighting on the economy and all of that, let me tell you something. And I started something right here on this program, when I called on all those who want to be president to come out there and tell us their plans for the country, particularly when it comes to domestic debt exchange. Dr. Dufo has shared his with you. Alan Kojo Tremanting, he's shared his also. He wasn't on his platform. But I do not mind. The most important thing is that anybody who wants to become president should be telling us what he wants to do so that I hold you accountable. Everything that you say. Absolutely. It is the reason why the Government Assurances Committee holds ministers and the president accountable. That's very instructive. Okay? You want to hold ministers, and presidents accountable. So I want the flag bearer to tell me, this is what I want to do. And I say, this is what you said you were going to do, and this is the reason I voted for you, and that's why I'm taking you on. So if you look at it from that point of view that, you need, one that can take on the government when it comes to the economy, he'll be punching holes. You can punch holes. But the real meat must come from the one who wants to lead the country. It is only when you have told us what you want to do as a political party, okay, that we now would have others repeating same, and then we say we go with it. Could that not have been done, for instance, by, how do you put it, for instance, could that have been done by Atuforsen still as ranking member of the Finance Committee? He could have done that. You could have actually said, okay, because we want to do that, how about James Aveji, who's made it very clear he's not getting back to Parliament? So why don't you become Deputy Minority Leader at Atuforsen? You could actually make that point all the same. But having said that also, because of the decisions the NPP took in 2015, and eventually they won the election with such a convincing margin, you cannot just write this off and say the NDC is goofed. This could be the masterstroke. We may never know. But let me make this point also. Now that the NDC has its minority leader from the central region, they're looking at swings. Can the NDC still go back to the central region for a running mate? Now that the NDC, after all, in the last leadership, you had somebody from the Ashanti region. I mean, he's a member of parliament in the Ashanti region, as someone say, as minority chief whip. Now that there is no leader from the NDC in the Ashanti region, where they need agenda 30% badly to influence their chances. The question is, in 2016, Atuforsen was the coordinator for the central region. Pakusiye Misatha was vice president from the central region, and the NDC still lost the election. In the 2020 elections, they won the parliamentary election, but lost the presidential election. Another one in 19 constituencies. Let's not forget that. So the point about, we're trying to do this in order to ensure that we're able to be successful in these regions. And let me be very honest with you. Part of the things that may have led to the MPP's loss of a lot of their parliamentary seats is also their own internal elections and even to their botched fight against Galamsey, for instance. The suspension of small-scale mining at a point affected a lot of people, even if people were sneaking in and still engaging in illegal mining, but that in itself played a role. The point about, for instance, we have someone from the Volta region, someone from the Greater Accra region, someone from the Bono region, and then someone from the Western region, and somebody from, the Central region. How about your major stronghold, the northern part of the country? Let's not forget here that a lot of the time when we do the analysis, and NDC is beginning to set the tone well for us by breaking it down and telling you this region, that region. So in the northern region, you just don't have northern region. You have regions of the north, 5 of them, upper east, upper west, and then you have Savannah region, northern region, and northeast region. I heard Dr. Asa Asante, for instance, make the point yesterday on Top Story that you have the, chairman from the, northern region. The chairman is from the upper west region. Mahama Idrisu is from upper west. John Mahama is from Savannah region. Majority of the NDC votes in the northern bloc come from the northern region. Who is represented in the northern region within the NDC today? The NPP is performing so well in the Savannah and Northeast regions. Savannah, Northeast. The NPP is doing well in these regions. So in the northern region, for instance, you should be considered. So while you may want to change the face of it, did it at any point in time also occur to the NDC that you should really consider your stronghold? And they did well by considering Fiifi Kwetey as General Secretary from the Volta region. But I think that on the whole, if I look at all of these things, I probably may say the NDC could have changed things. But in election analysis, you always would have
see.
you always would have to wait to see the impact of what people of the decisions people make. Because if the MPP's decision is anything to go by, it can happen. And I must also say that, Haruna Idris may have had his own problems, even within his front, may have had his own problems. So at a point in time, he may have seen this coming.
Oh, yeah.
He may have seen this coming. Muntaka had seen this coming. He talked about it before.
A couple of months ago,
Yes.
in fact, Haruna Idris was very clear in stating to everybody that I'm still in charge of the minority.
Exactly. So he may have seen this coming.
Mostly, you don't tell the people you are in charge until there's a problem.
They may have seen this coming. And I think that as leader of the minority, there are times he could have done a few things better. When they were talking about, opposing e-levy, he comes out to say, I'm prepared to accept 1%, really. And you had the minority chief whip disagreeing with you. I mean, that was not... It looked like a broken front of the minority. When you look at all of these things. And in politics, I end on this note, in politics, where your allegiance lies is also very important.
That's true.
When you are seen as not being a good friend of the person that we are all supporting.
The presumptive candidate.
The presumptive candidate. And that all the time you have to be making points that I support him. The others don't say it. If you have to be saying it all the time, then it
might
means
not match reality.
There's something wrong, and it could come a long way to affect you.